Hello team, this is 2 of the Decaf Project. We are coming at you from Phuket. We're on vacation. We just finished Thailand Coffee Festival. We're gonna cup these coffees outside in 30 degrees Celsius. Beautiful day here in Phuket. Nice day to cup. What else would we be doing? Why would we be at the beach, right? We should be here in the cupping lab.
Sure, we love this.
I am joined today by 3 friends. I've got Future, the current Thailand Barista Champion. I've got Jane, the 2023 Thailand Barista Champion. And I've got Boram, the 2023 World Barista Champion. And I'm Cole. We're missing Dave today. Dave had to go home. He's back home in the cold weather. Sorry, Dave, you couldn't join us for this fun cupping.
Haha, Dave.
Haha, Dave, we miss you, buddy. Hope to see you soon. Insert clip of Dave here.
Thanks, Cole. Appreciate you, buddy. We are here in the beautiful city of Calgary in Alberta, Canada. It's a little bit colder, only minus 25. Greatest roaster on earth, Paul Stevens. Paul.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. And we had the honor here at Rosso of getting the coffee and James Hoffmann's Decaf Project. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna talk to Paul about roasting it, what the difference is between the regular coffee and then the 3 decafs. We're gonna taste it. We're gonna beam back and forth with Cole, see how he's doing in Thailand. Let's have some fun. Let's warm up too. I need a coffee. Oh my God. Woo! Talk to me about, I guess, the standard non-decaffeinated coffee.
Yep, this was a washed Colombian, like a nice high quality specialty coffee from Colombia. I guess this coffee was chosen because it was like a fairly neutral coffee, nothing too wild, but just like a nice balanced kind of coffee with some acidity and like nice and clean. So it seemed like a good idea to use this one for the Decaf Project, so you could really see the differences in the flavor that happened from the decaffeination process. But when we got the actual coffees in, then I took a sample of each. I did some measurements on them. So we tend to measure the moisture level of each of them, and we measure the density. So this was about 10% moisture level, which is kind of average for a coffee. The maximum you want is around 12%. They can go down to about 8 or 9%.
And that's like moisture in the bean.
This is moisture, yeah, we measure the moisture in the bean. So this gives you an idea of like how it's gonna behave in the roaster and how fresh it is. So with the decaffeination processes, what they have to do is because they tend to soak the coffees, and so they get really wet, and then they have to dry them out back to a certain level of moisture. So the moistures have all changed on these ones.
Okay.
So this one was 10, whereas all of these are over 11%. Some of them are like 12%, so they're 11.8 and 12%. So they're all much higher.
Okay.
So I knew that this would slow the coffee down in the roaster because it takes longer for the moisture to kind of
leave the bean.
To burn off, yeah, before the actual coffee can get roasted.
So let's talk about each decaf process. Our friends in Canada here, Swiss Water Decaf. They're out in Vancouver. It's probably not that cold out there, but what do they do? What's their technology? And then what did that actually do to the bean?
So yeah, Swiss Water is probably pretty well known. Not done in Switzerland, but done in Canada. Essentially what they're doing is they're using the principle of osmosis to extract the caffeine from the coffee. So that they're taking like a batch of coffee and they kind of like have a process where they soak it in the water, and that water, like everything leaches out into the water. So like the flavor compounds and the caffeine all leach out into that water. So you essentially get this like coffee soup.
Okay.
And then they filter that to get the caffeine out. So they have the coffee soup, but without the caffeine in. And then they take a second batch of beans, of fresh green beans, put them in that liquid. And then like the only thing missing from that liquid is the caffeine. So that is like selectively extracted from the beans then.
Wow, okay.
The liquid is already saturated with all the other flavor compounds, so none of those can escape. And so you'll find that like when we roast this coffee, then it tends to look a little bit more oily than the regular coffee because the structure has already been a bit broken down. So
okay. And then if you were to compare the roast of Swiss Water Decaf versus the regular, what would go on in the roast?
It was slow, much slower to start with.
Oh, interesting.
Because of the higher moisture level than this one.
Okay.
But then once gets going, then it starts roasting much quicker.
Okay.
And it gets darker much easier. The first test roast I did of this, it got really dark. Like I did it like a small batch.
Oh yeah.
But that was good because that was kind of gave me advice of how to roast it when it came to doing the large batch that we sent out to everybody.
Okay, interesting. Okay, next. Thanks, decaf. We got the CO2 process. So what on earth is going on here?
This is done with like carbon dioxide that they put under pressure, so it becomes like subcritical, which is like partway between a liquid and a gas. And when it's in that state, then it acts as a solvent, so it goes into the coffee.
Okay.
And it selectively like takes out the caffeine.
And roasting CO2 versus the regular, what happened on this roast?
Again, the moisture was pretty high on this one. So it was slow to start with. And I think it was very similar to the Swiss water I found, like in appearance of the green initially, and in the density. And again, it got fairly dark. It didn't get as dark as the Swiss water.
Okay.
Because I tried to roast the samples to the same profile to see how they would behave rather than adjusting them when I did the samples.
Okay.
Because that would give me a truer representation of how they were going to behave.
Okay. And all 4 coffees, are they roasted on the same roast profile, or are you custom? Because are we wanting to taste, we have this problem or opportunity in the industry of like, you're putting your imprint or on the, the coffee through the roasting. Did you want to keep the roast exactly the same, or you knew that wasn't possible because they would all come out like really light or really dark or somewhere in between?
When I did the sample roast, so we did a sample roast of just 500 grams of each on a stronghold roaster.
Yeah.
We I wanted to do them to the same profile to see how much they would change. So if I started at the same temperature, then if this one took an extra 2 minutes, let's say, then I knew that then when I did the regular big batches, that I would adjust it to try and make it quicker.
Okay.
And I was pretty happy with how the big batches turned out, that they were way more consistent with each other than these ones.
In Canada, the decaf market is growing quite a lot. A lot of people are conscious of just general consumption, I think. Alcohol included, caffeine, everything. People are becoming more and more just conscious of what they're putting into their body, and a lot of people have switched to drinking low calf or decaf, and I think realistically those are the people that actually like really enjoy the flavor of coffee. That to me is why this is super fascinating, is the original is not necessarily the best. We don't know. We'll taste and find out momentarily. The original is not necessarily going to be the best. The decaf might taste better, but might not get the same appreciation in the marketplace depending on why people drink coffee.
You can see the differences in the color as well. This one has, you can see the chaff on there, which is the silver skin, and you often see like a brown bean with a light white center cut down it.
So that's on the regular non-decaffeinated coffee?
With a decaffeinated coffee, it's similar to like natural processed coffees are like this as well, that center cut gets soaked with the coffee sugars and things, so they look more even.
And then based on the aroma, are you noticing anything through like the decaffeination process?
There's definitely like a different aroma with these two.
So we got Swiss water and the EA?
Yeah.
No, CO2, sorry.
CO2, sorry, yeah. They have a distinctive aroma, these two. Also find that this is the EA is the most similar to the original.
And what's the aroma that you're picking up on the?
There's a really nice kind of like caramelly sort of
interesting
fragrance. Maybe a touch of like lime.
Okay.
Whereas these two are way more like chocolate forward.
Okay. I've actually never tasted 3 decafs. and the processing is side by side. So for me, this is a really exciting project.
Yeah, I've tried all of these processes before in the past, from different coffees, but never the same coffee
Side by
using
side.
these processes. So you're always kind of like comparing apples to oranges. You try a CO2 process, but it's a natural Ethiopian, and then you try a Swiss water process, and it's a washed Colombian. So you don't really know what the coffee was like originally. So I guess there's two things. One is like you don't often taste the same coffee, like decaffeinated and regular, and you don't taste the same coffee with different decaffeination processes. So this is the first time that we've had the opportunity to like really compare the processes.
It's nice to showcase different styles of decaffeination and how that impacts the flavor in the cup, how it impacts a roaster like you. And someone will, through this process may say, oh, wow, I love EA process. I'm going to, start only buying that. Or it's an interesting to buy 2 different decafs or 3 different decafs and have it on a cafe menu or a roastery's menu, maybe going forward. So exciting times.
Yeah, and it's interesting to know if there's a consensus with which tastes the best, or like depending on how they were roasted. Like, do some of these decaffeination processes behave better on a particular roaster,
right,
than others? And then how people are brewing them. So this is the 3rd time I've tasted these coffees. I tasted them at home with just using Brita filtered water.
Okay.
And I tasted them at work with reverse osmosis water, and they tasted different, like very different to each other. So, and some of them I preferred with one water to the other water. So because we have people tasting this coffee all over the world, whatever water they're using and whatever it was roasted on, how it was roasted, is gonna greatly affect the outcome.
Okay, should we pour some water?
Let's do it.
Paul, the honor's yours. Do you want to take us through maybe a little bit of the cupping process, why we're tasting it this way instead of doing maybe 4 different pour overs or French press or something else?
The idea behind cupping is...
Actually, can you pour some on my hand? It's so cold.
is consistency.
Okay.
Like throughout tasting coffee or brewing coffee, there's always variables. And we try and control those variables as much as possible.
Okay.
So this way we've weighed out the same amount of coffee, and we're pouring the same amount of water in. And we're trying to keep everything the same, so they've all been ground to the same fineness. And if you do like a pour over, for instance, the way that you pour the coffee, and it affects how they extract. And like some of these will brew quicker than others, so it'll get passed through the filter quicker, and it will change the flavor of the coffee. So this is one way of trying to keep it as consistent as possible.
Okay.
And it's also easy. All you need is to grind the coffee and put it in a cup, put water on it. You haven't got to set up, especially we often cup, like 20 coffees. We can't be doing pour overs of all those coffees. It's going to take too long.
Right, yeah.
So this is one way of you can quickly pour the water and you can quickly assess the coffees.
Okay, Paul, how many roasts did you get to do of the coffees?
So I did 3 roasts altogether. So we did the first sample roast, which was just 500 grams and a small roaster. And Colombian coffee comes in a 70 kilo sack. So our roaster can only do 40 kilos. So I couldn't roast the entire sack in one roast.
Okay.
So I split it into 2. So approximately 35 kilos in each roast. So I had 2 chances. I wanted to keep them. Once I did that first roast, I wasn't going to drastically change the second roast.
Okay, yeah.
Because I wanted those to be consistent. And then we did blend them together afterwards, so that everybody got the same
experience.
The same experience, yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of maybe tweaked the roast slightly to make it a little bit nicer on the second batch, but not radically different.
You want to break these?
Yep, so we're at 4 minutes.
And do you want to take us through maybe one note you're kind of getting on each coffee?
Okay, let's do this one. So initially I'm getting some caramels there, and maybe like a touch of like molasses on this one.
So on the CO2, you're getting a little more caramel. Okay.
This
The
was
EA process, what are you getting on that one?
it's like smells a little bit lighter, so you're still getting a caramel note, but like not so like deep, but a bit like brighter, and maybe a bit more fruit in this one.
Okay.
Kind of some kind of citrus, like grapefruit or lime
Okay.
in there.
And then how about on the non-decaffeinated coffee? What are you smelling there?
Again, it was pretty bright with that grapefruit
Okay.
and some caramels in there.
And then lastly, our Canadian brothers in arms, Swiss water decaf. What are you smelling on it?
This had like a real chocolate and like, again, that like slight molasses note, which I
Interesting.
sometimes find in decafs, and like maybe like a brown sugary kind of sweetness in this one.
Okay, so we got Swiss water decaf, a little more lower notes, kind of like low tones on the coffee, same with the CO2. And then as we switch over to the EA, we're seeing a little more like citrus.
Yeah,
Okay,
and the same with the non-decaf. Yeah.
the regular coffee. Okay, since it's like minus 40, let's we get our bonfire going over here. We need our hand warmers. I'm gonna drink this right now because that's gonna be the only way to warm up. But it is a beautiful day. Look at this sun. Everyone says Calgary's so cold. It's not, people. It's a beautiful city. It's warm. We're out here cupping coffee. I should be on the tourism board. When we travel, we're always repping Calgary.
Blue Sky City.
Blue Sky City, that's right.
Normally, we would let the coffee cool down because it's always way too hot. But I think the coffee's probably cool enough already.
5 minutes in, it's ready to go. Thank you, good sir. Paul, you start us.
This spoon is cold too.
Okay, Paul, take us through. So we're starting with a non-decaffeinated coffee.
So there's a nice brightness there. Kind of getting like a tangerine sort of flavor to it. A little bit of chocolate in the background. The body seems quite light, like medium light body,
Okay.
which is like the way it feels in your mouth, like how heavy the liquid is.
It seems the viscosity on that one is better. Like the overall just profile in the mouth seems better, and maybe the acidity is a touch better.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Kenya coffee, this one.
Nice whoosh. Yeah. Original one is just very juicy, clean, like you can taste like brown sugar, citrus, a little more intensity in all the characteristics too.
Yeah. So with this, we had 2 shots at it, so I don't really know how much better this coffee could have gotten.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm pretty happy with the
Yeah.
first go at it.
Yeah, there's a nice citrus orange, lots of like on the back end brown sugar, kind of long lasting. It's very sweet. It's warming my soul right now, which is nice.
Yeah, it's getting
I'm
a bit
waking up now. I'm
a
finally
bit
awake.
sweeter as the coffee cools down.
Yeah. Okay, so it's taste now Swiss water head to head. Okay, what do you getting here, Paul?
I think the first thing is that the body is very different. So it feels much like heavier, like thicker.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's a nice. I often find that Swiss water has a really nice, like mouthfeel. It's very creamy.
Yeah, the textures improve.
And this must be like a byproduct of the process,
Yep.
where the cell structure is kind of opened up, and it tends to give you a different body.
And then how about on the flavor front?
Definitely a drop in acidity.
Yeah, where the regular coffee, the acidity kind of peaks and it's higher, I would say. This, it's like medium low on acidity.
Yeah, it's still present, but it's not that kind of tangerine brightness that
Yeah.
this one has. And definitely more of that chocolate
Yeah.
and like dark brown sugar.
Yeah,
sort
there's
of
lots of
notes.
like deep brown sugar.
Mhm.
It's like nice and sweet. Maybe it's muted the acidity a bit from the processing.
This tastes like a washed Colombian. It's fairly classic. This I would struggle to pinpoint
Where that's coming from.
where this coffee came from.
Wow.
And
Okay. So that we're seeing that's the Swiss water process has impacted some of the flavors, some of the clarity maybe, and it's shifted the flavors a little bit. Let's move on. We got our CO2 process.
So the body's different again, not quite as creamy as the
Yeah.
as the Swiss water.
Yeah.
It's actually slightly sticky. It's got like a
Yeah, yeah. It's sticky, but it's like, I'd say it's definitely, comparing it to the Swiss water, it's thinner. And comparing it to the regular coffee, again, it's like, it's thinner. There's kind of like on the finish, like toffee, like brown sugar. It's still quite sweet.
there's a good sweetness, yeah, for sure. I think the acidity is maybe even like a little bit more muted than the Swiss water.
Yeah.
I find it's very kind of smoothed out.
And would you be able to identify, you think you could identify that this is a Colombian coffee, or is it?
Maybe,
So
yeah.
a little,
There's some like caramel notes and things there that hint at Colombian.
Okay.
But maybe I think it was some kind of Central American, perhaps. There's definitely some citrus notes in there,
Okay.
but not as kind of vibrant sort of tangerine to this one, but more of like a sweet, like orange in there.
Okay. Brought down the acidity, kept some interesting sugar notes, changed the body.
Maybe the sweetnesses are the same, but this one has more of those like fruit acids in there, which kind of mask some of the sweetness. So the sweetness becomes more apparent in the decafs, maybe. I don't know.
I wonder what our shirtless bros think of it.
This one feels more like rounded.
Yeah, cleaner and more balanced,
Yeah.
but then no intensity.
Yeah, very soft.
Okay, Paul, talk to me about the EA flavors here.
So once again, I think the acidity has been brought down. But not nearly as much as these two. So it's still there. It's still like a soft tangerine kind of flavor.
Yeah.
I think the body is comparable. They're very similar.
Okay.
The weight to them. The aftertaste, you definitely get that like citrus zest kind of in there still.
Okay. I can see it. I love it. I believe it.
And then you go to the sugarcane one, it was kind of like very bright acidity, juicy, but then the finish is kind of slightly off for me. Yeah, papery for some reason.
The EA process highlights the acidity more than maybe Swiss water or CO2, at least in this cupping.
Yeah, like we said earlier about smoothing the coffee out, that if you don't like the acidity, you don't like that,
Yeah.
then these would mellow the coffee out more and give you more of those like chocolatey kind of sweet
Yep.
brown sugar notes.
Okay, what was the favorite coffee you tasted right now?
I would have to go with the ethyl acetate.
Wow, okay.
It is the most similar to the original, and it's a flavor I like. It's brighter.
And you like the EA process because it is having the least amount of impact on the regular coffee. Is that why you like it? Or because it's transforming some new flavors occurring?
I think because it's maintaining the flavors
Okay.
that are in there.
Okay. So if you're picking a decaf, you don't want the decaf process adding new flavors. You want to keep the regular coffee flavors intact as much as possible.
Yeah, if it could create better flavors, then maybe. And if I was looking for a coffee that was like richer and sweeter, perhaps then I would choose one of these.
Okay.
So these might be better on like an espresso or something, or having like a milk-based
Right.
espresso drink, like cappuccino or something. Those might work better than.
Right. But if
Than
we're
that.
drinking just coffee, EA today wins.
Yeah.
And then give us your perspective as roasting. If you had to pick one of these coffees to roast, why did you enjoy roasting that coffee? Give us the roaster's perspective.
Like the regular it roasted very quickly. Actually, it went very quick. So it was like a little bit more tricky to manage. And some washed coffees can, when they hit first crack, they can do a little bit of a crash. So it was a little bit difficult.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, the decaf often roasts like nicer. So I think the ethyl acetate probably roasted the nicest out of this one.
Oh well.
It was very consistent, and The CO2 as well was fairly good at roasting. The CO2, interestingly, had very high density, the green coffee.
So if a coffee is more dense, what does that mean for a roaster?
It can take a little bit more heat and
Okay.
without scorching or without getting over roasting too easily.
And scorching, we're talking about the drum is too hot and then the bean hits the side of the drum too long.
Yeah.
And we're creating a little bit of a burnt spot on the bean.
Yeah, sometimes you get beans which are lighter in density, and then they need a more delicate approach to them so they don't over roast.
It's like cooking your steak. Oh, no, we can't use that analogy. Paul's vegan. It's like cooking your eggplant.
Yeah.
I've never cooked eggplant, but
you're missing out.
I know.
Eggplant's
I've
great.
eaten lots of eggplant. You don't want me cooking anything, man. Paul, really appreciate all your insights. You got any final words?
No, it's great to be and it was great to be a part of this. I'm really pleased to try these coffees. Some of these I wouldn't know that they were decaf if you put them on a table.
Oh, wow.
And you didn't say that they were decaf.
Yeah.
I think that decaf, historically, people don't care about decaf, so they use poor quality coffee to decaffeinate. So if it didn't taste good to start with, it's not going to
get better.
It's not going to get better. So if the people are using high quality coffee to decaffeinate, then you're going to get a better cup of coffee at the end.
Yeah. No, it's been a super exciting project. James sourcing these coffees, working with 3 different decaffeination processes. This has never been done before. It's an honor that we got to, buy some of this coffee.
Yeah, it was a real whirlwind from first getting the email from James saying that the coffee was live, we could buy the coffee, and I sent you a message. I was like, should we do this?
Let's do it.
And you're like, let's go for it. And we didn't know how well it was going to sell.
Yeah, we were worried because it was decaf. You don't know how well sales are going to be, but...
And our team had to work like crazy to get all the coffee bagged up and sent out. It seemed to happen in such a short space of time.
Yeah. No, it was amazing to see, the 600 orders come through. People were phoning the cafes trying to get it. They were reaching out online. So lots of fun.
Yeah.
Team working super hard in the back. You guys did a great job. You and Sam did a great job roasting the coffee. Cole, put your shirt back on, man. You're burning. It looks like you're a lobster already. Hope you're enjoying Thailand. Actually, I hope you're not enjoying Thailand because it's about minus 45 now. The sun's higher, but it's still freezing cold out. We're having fun. James, thanks for the Decaf Project. Really appreciate it. That's us signing off.
That's what 4 of the same coffee, just decaffeinated different ways, tastes like.
I think it's very cool how people always, I had the prejudice and people would always tell me, oh, decaf tastes like nothing. And for me, it's quite surprising because all the coffees have a lot of character, and you can see the original characteristics of the coffee.
True, agree.
Slightly hard to say, I think if we did, for example, decaf, cup the decaf, and then cup the original, and then find the coffees and match them,
Yeah.
I think I would have a hard time trying to match them.
Yeah.
But side by side, you can actually taste a lot of the characteristics.
Right. Or if we did this blind, I bet we wouldn't all identify the original.
Yeah, it would be very hard to identify the original, I think.
Cool. There you have it, folks. That is the Phuket version of James Hoffmann Decaf Project cupping. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned something. We sure did. And now we got to go back to the pool. Our Pilates class is just about to start.
In the water.
Ciao for now.